In this episode of the Range Minded Podcast, we talk a little bit about the Colorado assault weapons ban. Truly, it has to be frustrating for you folk in Colorado. We also talk about another final rule from the ATF, not the one about the doing business thing. No, it's another one. We talk about that a little bit, as well as kind of water skiing over Bruen. We need to actually dive into that deeper one day, but this time we're just going to water ski over it. Anyways, there's that and a little bit more of monologuing as usual. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Skills to Pay the Bills, episode 240 of the Range Minded Podcast. Welcome back to the Range Minded Podcast. Couldn't have done that before the show started, honestly. Now I have to clear my throat. Oh. Some things you just never win, right? Guess what? I'm not going to edit that out because I want you guys to know this show's fresh. This show's real. It's just who I am. We're just having a conversation, right? You can't, in life, you can't go back and edit out. That doesn't work. No, you go with it, right? And that's exactly what we're going to do right now. Anyway, welcome back to the show. My name is, as usual, my name is not as usual. Man, I am really struggling. My name is Steve, and this is the Range Minded Podcast, which I promise you, I assure you, is a very professional program that we work hard to make sure that your highest expectations are met, except for when I try to record a live show and inevitably screw it all up. But we're still going to go with it because I hate editing. So it's just what it is. Welcome back. I know I missed a week. I know. And we're going to get into why. Boy, I have lots of excuses when I miss a show, don't I? I'll own it. All right? It's my fault. I missed it because of this right here. See this? See? Pages. Yeah. Those of you in audio land that are too cheap to actually watch the show on YouTube or wherever you can watch a video version of the show, that is like 200 pages of nonsense. Well, not all of it. There's a lot of it, but not all of it is nonsense. And we're going to talk about a lot of that tonight. If I can ever get past this opener, because I'm pathetic. All right, so let's see what's happened in the last couple of weeks. We've seen, you've seen the protests at various universities. That's been pleasant, right? Good thing they're all peaceful, and it's not like they're setting up their own little colonies inside, campuses and buildings and saying hateful things and, destroying property of the school. It's a good thing it's just peaceful, I'm sure. Which, my friends, is another reason why you need to learn life-saving skills, whether that be medical or implements to procure your family's safety. Because you never know when you're going to get tied up in the middle of something. And you need to learn need to know how to execute certain things in a certain way to keep you and your family safe. Because I think this is just the beginning. As you know, it's an election year. So things get crazy really, really fast. And it's important for us to be ready for that. We talked about it when I did the Cerebrus class, right? With Fieldworks and those guys in Boise a few weeks ago. We talked about stress inoculation. You need to find a place where you can inoculate yourself from stressful situations. So when the time arises, you can act on your training. Highly important. I highly recommend seeking out classes like that. Something that tests you to the limit. I also encourage you to do. Man, can you guess I'm tired? I also encourage you to seek out a local pistol club to which you can practice your practical handgun skills, meaning target acquisition, sight alignment, sight picture, and yes, trigger control while you're shooting against a clock to ensure that your skills are improving. I promise you find a good USPSA match or an IDPA match, or even just like a little steel challenge match or something. You will see your skills improve. And do not be too proud to take the counsel from like the range officers and such while you're there shooting, because they just want to run a safe range. I promise you, you will see your skills improve. It happened to me when I was shooting matches. It was a very good time, and I really, really enjoy it. But ammo's expensive. I get it. Dry fire in that case. Dry fire. Anyway, should we get to the show? Yeah, I think we should. So you saw that stack of papers I presented to you. Part of that stack, a majority of that stack, is the Bruen decision from Thomas and Alito, as well as the dissenting arguments, or whatever you want to call it. I've read that, and there's a lot there, and it was daunting, and it was exhausting, and my brain hurts. There's a lot there. But what I did read, I guess I didn't finish it. I made it as far as to the dissenting arguments. And then I had to stop because my brain was like jello, and not even the good kind. There's so much in there that we need to be discussing. What I would encourage you to do, and I'm going to try every time I link something in the show notes, especially on YouTube, I get flagged. Like, not that my content gets flagged, but I just obviously don't know how to use the description box, because every time I link anything in the description box, it thinks I'm trying to scam or spam people, and that's clearly not the case. But we'll put it in the show notes anyways. We'll figure out a way to link that in there. It is long. It is a kind of an arduous read for a simple-minded person like myself. But the content is so rich. And you're going to gain so much knowledge just from reading that. And I'm not talking like what the Bruen decision, the NYSERPA versus Bruen opinion, like what that entails, but so much more in depth of how they got to that decision. That's why it's important for us to read the decisions on these cases, because it digs into the nitty gritty and it helps you understand the thought process in the Supreme Court. Honestly, Thomas and Alito both, their ability to dig into history, text, and tradition, which is between Heller and Bruen, those two decisions really dive into that, and it helps you see how they got there and some of the stuff they extrapolated from history to get where we are. Fabulous content. It will make you a better communicator when it comes to Second Amendment rights. I promise you, there is some good, solid, and some stuff in there that you probably didn't even know, which is awesome. We're going to talk about that today a little bit, not all of it, because I don't want to have a 15-hour show, but we will get into some of it, the best that I can remember. And I'll be reading from the papers on that one, because that's just the way it is. We're not going to read like I normally do. We're not going to read that whole thing, because that would suck for you and for me. But I did want to jump to something before that. Now, do you guys know who Eva Flannel is? Eva in Colorado. Her dad is now I had a brain fart. He has like this huge firearm collection, tanks, all sorts of cool stuff. Just a solid 2A pro-America, pro-freedom, pro-constitution dude. Anyway, his daughter, Eva or Ava, one of the two, whatever. We'll just call her Eva. She's awesome. She's carrying the torch for the gun rights folks in Colorado. She's trying her best, and Colorado's a mess right now. We're going to be talking about that. In fact, let's just jump into that right now. I wanted to read to you the stuff, the assault weapons ban stuff that is happening in Colorado. So let me transition this over. I got to do this one more thing. Okay. As you see, the light changed because I'm reading this on the screen and it's really bright. And it's like, ooh, I'm going to get a suntan here. All right. So this bill, this is, let's go back up here. House Bill 24-1292. Okay. This is the assault weapons ban for Colorado. Now, this dives into some of the other things we're going to be talking about tonight as well. Basically, kind of orbiting around the assault weapons ban, or the Safer Communities Act, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. Easy for you to say, but it's important for us to understand what things are being changed or what is being implemented because of the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. That is a huge thing, which I think in passing, a lot of us just kind of said, oh, that's stupid. Why are they doing that? But I don't think we're seeing or not really digging into the actual problems with that act. Yes, I know it's an executive order. I understand that there's a lot that doesn't really matter. Just another executive order can bump it out. The problem is these states like Colorado are going to implement some things that are going to have real effects on the 2A community. In this case, in Colorado. But what we're going to read into is a cookie cutter. It is a copy and paste bill, in my opinion, anyways. It is a copy and paste bill meant to be used as a template for other states to enact the same kind of stuff. Now, if you live in states like California or Chicago, so I guess Illinois, Chicago's not a state, or other more left-leaning states, it's obviously going to be easier for these things to be implemented, and maybe they already have been implemented in your state if that's where you live. But for states like me, I live in Idaho, or Texas, or Wyoming, some of these more conservative states, we need to be getting ahead of these things because they are going to impact us at some point. All right, let's read the summary here. This bill defines the term assault weapon and prohibits a person from manufacturing, importing, purchasing, selling, offering to sell, or transferring ownership of an assault weapon. The bill further prohibits a person from possessing a rapid-fire trigger activator. A person in violation of these prohibitions will be assessed a first-time penalty of $250,000 and $500,000 for each subsequent violation. Okay, that is the first thing I wanted you guys to see. That is kind of a big deal, right? When we look at some federal cases, now this is on top of a federal. The state could probably still fine you for something on top of the federal crime because this is a state violation of their law. So on a federal crime, when it comes to NFA type stuff, right, it's up to $250,000 and 10 years in prison. Well, this is $250,000 for the first one and $500,000 for any subsequent violations. Not for total, that's each, right? You see right there? Each violation. That could add up really, really fast, right? And it's kind of unfair for people living in the state of Colorado. All right, this is interesting, okay? I know there's a lot of stuff in this bill that we're not going to read. I mean, look at a lot of this stuff is just descriptions and BS, okay? So don't worry, we're not going to get crazy with it. Let me jump back up here towards the top. For those of you listening in the Poor Man's Podcast platform, we're just looking at a bill. All right. This prohibition does not apply to members of the United States Armed Forces, a peace officer, or other government official or agent, to the extent that that person is otherwise authorized to acquire or possess an assault weapon and does so while acting within the scope of the person's duties. Okay, so military, police, or any government agent. Okay, the manufacture, sale, or transfer of an assault weapon by a licensed firearms manufacturer to any branch of the United States Armed Forces or to an entity that employs peace officers for use by that entity or its employees. Okay, so next is it's not going to apply to an FFL that does business, meaning transferring stuff to government, whether it be federal or state or local, I guess. The transfer of an assault weapon to a licensed firearm dealer or gunsmith for the purpose of maintenance, repair, or modification, and the subsequent return of the assault weapon to its lawful owner. So if you need some work done, you can send it to an FFL or a licensed gunsmith, which, gunsmiths do have FFLs if they're licensed, and then back to the rightful owner. Any federal, state, or local historical society, museum, or institutional collection that is open to the public, provided that the assault weapon is securely housed and unloaded. Interesting. Okay, so museums make sense, but look what they made sure to include: open to the public. So that means dudes that have their collector's license, that don't want to show off their collection, they don't count. It doesn't matter. Nope, you're not grandfathered in. Meaning, we'll get into it. The only way it doesn't apply to you is if you're a museum. In this case, okay, open to the public. An entity that operates as an armored vehicle business and an authorized employee of an entity while the course and scope of an employment. So, security guard, okay, armored car company. A licensed gun dealer who has a remaining inventory of assault weapons as of August 2024 and sells or transfers the remaining inventory to only a non-Colorado resident, and the sell or transfer takes place out of state or a police officer. So you peon citizens in Colorado have to follow these rules. You have to, because you're peasants, according to this provision here. Only the good guys that know so much and are trained so well can have exercise their Second Amendment rights. All right. This defines an assault weapons. Now, this all comes out of the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. Now, states can kind of manipulate their proposed bills as long as it's the minimum meets that requirement of the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. Okay. All right. Legislative declaration. The General Assembly finds and declares that. I hope you have the duct tape ready, folks. Mass shootings are a significant component and of the distinctly American epidemic of gun violence. Gun violence of all types are an ongoing and growing threat to the public health and safety of all Coloradans. Okay. Now I want you to listen and understand these terms being used. Recently, they're using I shouldn't say too recently. They're using a tactic, the exact same tactic that they use with cigarettes. Now, cigarettes are not protected under the Constitution. I get it. But firearms are. Now, they changed this to a public health and safety epidemic. Did you hear what I just said? A public health and safety epidemic. What did we have to deal with a few years ago? And what did them declaring a pandemic actually give the government the right to do? Oh, I shouldn't say they didn't give a right to do anything. What did the government take liberties on doing to your safety or your freedoms? It was a public health problem, right? Pay attention here, folks. Pay attention. As preventable gun deaths from all types continue to devastate families and communities in the form of state violence, completed suicide, interpersonal violence, and accidental deaths, assault weapons remain a preeminent factor in the devastating crisis of gun fatalities. Now, an assault weapon, right, makes you think of just an AR, but if you go back and look at the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act and what their definitions were, it's a lot more broad than what you think, unless you pay attention to the show. In recent years, Americans have endured an unfathomable average of more than one mass shooting per day. I would sure like to see the footnotes on that. Interesting. Consistently, the deadliest mass shooting incidents in the United States involve the use of assault weapons or high-capacity magazines. Such instruments have no place in a civilized society. All right. Again, when we think of the words assault weapons, we think of the AR because they've used that moniker, well, something very similar, assault rifle, right? They've used that to make us think of the AR, but it's not. It's not just the AR, okay? Be mindful of this. And high-capacity magazines, standard capacity is what they're saying. If only the shooters had 2 rounds, this wouldn't happen. They can have all the magazines they want on their person, but they can only have 2 rounds in the magazine. What's going to happen is nothing. They'll just have more magazines. Okay, this is a we have to do something effect, right? This is ridiculous. And by the way, if you're looking at assault rifles as assault weapons, like if you're interchanging that term, rifles are used 0.02% of all shooting incidents in the United States, even recorded. Now listen to me. If you want to learn more about where they're getting these statistics from, it's the Gun Violence Archive. Also, you can look at the Moms Demand Action and some of those other ones. I think Brady Campaign has some stuff on there too. Almost all of it comes from the Gun Violence Archive. The nice thing about that is you can actually see what they're defining as these mass shootings. You can actually look at some of the reports. And if you're a good researcher, you can dig a little deeper and even see more inside of the little window and understand that this doesn't make sense as a mass shooting. This is gang violence. These are things that shouldn't be categorized as a mass shooting. Just because it happened in a crowded street, I guess that would still constitute, right? But what if that street is full of thugs in a little gang war? Okay, it's unfair the way they gather their statistics and pile them up, and they're creating this fear for you to be willing to get to the point to be willing to give up your rights. That's all this is a way to generate enough fear in you to say, well, we have to let the Second Amendment go. That's what it's all about. Well-known places that should only have ever been known as sites safe for joy, learning, commerce, and care are instead forever associated with the tragedies of mass shootings. And it talks about the mass shootings that Colorado's seen: Columbine, the Aurora Theater, the King's Store in Boulder, Club Q. All of that was in Colorado. Okay, I don't know why. But I understand why they're putting this as a Colorado bill, but there's why were those places targeted? Probably because they were gun-free zones, I'm assuming, pretty solidly assuming. Again, duct tape time. Assault weapons and high-capacity magazines are disproportionately used in mass shootings, and the reason are both obvious and irrefutable. Assault weapons are uniquely lethal by design. They entail tactical features designed for warfare, refined to maximize killing large numbers of people quickly and efficiently. Any gun can kill. Okay, any gun. A knife can kill. A car can kill. Airplanes can kill. Apparently, if you live in California, almost everything you buy can cause cancer, which inevitably will be death of you, right? It's a straw man. Okay, it's a straw man. The tactical features, this is a great one. The tactical features of assault weapons are not merely cosmetic. They are not minor. They differentiate assault weapons from other firearms by allowing the shooter to better conceal weapons. Yeah, I want to see you conceal a full-size AR in your jacket. There's a few that can, I guess, but if it's warm outside, that ain't happen. Better conceal weapons make it easier to fire a high volume of ammunition in a short period of time while maintaining accuracy. Are they talking about the bump stock? Because you can't maintain accuracy with a bump stock. I don't care who you are. Maybe there's some out there. I've used them. I hate them. I think they suck. You've heard me talk about that before. Maximizing catastrophic injury and preventing the ease of use for less than expert users. Okay, wait a minute here. I didn't notice this before. So these tactical features, okay, they make it easier to fire high capacity volume of ammunition, but they also providing ease of use for, okay, I read that wrong. Okay, so now apparently they make it easy for idiots to use. I really would present that these psychopathic idiots will do anything to kill and to get notoriety. The General Assembly further finds that assault weapons are not suitable for self-defense, lies, and are not well suited for hunting, lies, sporting, or any other purpose than mass killing. All of those are completely false. I know people that hunt with their ARs. I've heard many stories out there of people using their ARs for defense. If you remember that church shooting in Texas, Stephen Rutherford used his AR to stop that shooting from finishing. In fact, he shot the guy, and the guy ended up dying with, mind you, he used his AR, thankfully. The firearms industry has specifically, okay, this goes in, right? We talk about the cases that are presented to a lot of these manufacturers. They say they're specifically targeting children and manipulating their minds with their advertisements. I haven't seen a gun ad for years on TV. The firearm industry has specifically marketed assault weapons as tactical, hyper-masculine. They have this thing with sexuality, the left does, and military style in a manner that overtly appeals to the very most people likely to acquire such weapons as a means to gain infamy as a mass shooter. Okay, there's a problem with that. It has nothing to do with the tool being used. It has to do with the twisted society perspective on news that we have to show off like the most violent things on the news because that's what gets ratings. The reason why school shooters specifically choose to shoot up schools is because they want to have the notoriety that the kids from Columbine did. They want the numbers, that the more numbers they get, the more notoriety they're going to have, and they're going to die famous. That's the problem is society has allowed our youth to want to be famous more than to be useful and more than being productive, because they manipulate their minds and thinking, like through social media and such, that likes, shares, and notoriety is what really matters. There you go. There's that little soapbox for you. It is critical to limit the prospective sale of assault weapons and accessories while permitting existing legal owners to retain the assault weapons that they currently own. I don't own any assault weapons. None of my guns have ever been used to assault anybody. And honestly, nothing I own has been used to assault anybody. Just my verbal jujitsu, I guess, which isn't very good, obviously. Just as the design of assault weapons maximizes their lethality, policy designed to interrupt their proliferation of these weapons has been shown to be just as successful in decreasing deaths. I disagree. The assault weapons ban in '94, which they go through, didn't really do anything. Deaths by firearms were in decline anyways. It didn't do much, and we can talk about that later if you want. I'm already longer on this little segment than I wanted to be. Anyways, this goes through, okay? This Colorado ban, look at this, okay? It goes through everything, the defining characteristics of what an assault weapon is, okay? According to them. And it's everything. Detachable magazine, okay? And one of the following characters, pistol grip or a thumbhole stock. Capable of functioning as a protruding grip that can be held for the non-firing hand, okay? Stupid. A pistol grip on the front. Folding, telescoping, detachable stock that is otherwise foldable or adjustable in a manner that operates to reduce the length or any other dimension otherwise enhances the ability to conceal the weapon. Okay, whatever. A muzzle brake, which was in the '94 ban. So what? A muzzle brake. So what? A grenade launcher or a flare launcher. Yeah, that's scary. Scary. A shroud attached to the barrel, the shroud thingy that goes up, right? That just helps the control of the firearm, right? It keeps you from burning your hand. A threaded barrel, can't have those. Super scary. Now, it goes through in this section from 22 on. It goes through and defines every firearm that falls under this act, this assault weapons ban for Colorado. Okay? I'm not going to read them all because it would be a waste of time. But look at this. So we are not even halfway through this document. Look at that. Every possible Daniel. There's a Thompson Center up there. There's Uzis. Keep going. Now we're about halfway through the dock. Oh, look, here's more. Okay, let's scroll down here. The following, shotgun. Okay, never mind. As part of the combination of parts designed and intended to convert a firearm to assault weapons is defined as in this subsection. An assault weapon does not include any firearm that has been made permanently inoperable. Okay, so now if you own a gun in Colorado that falls under this act and you want to keep it, pass it on to your kids, it has to be completely useless. An antique firearm manufactured for $18.99, a replica of an antique firearm, a firearm that is manually operated by bolt, pump, lever, slide, a slide action unless a firearm is a shotgun with a revolving cylinder, which they do make. I don't know why that doesn't fall under there. Or a firearm that could only be fired, can only fire rimfire ammunition. So let's just make a 50 cal rimfire. But nope, you can't, because 50 cal is a no-no. Detachable magazines, which are super, super speedy, scary. An assault weapon has it takes a detachable magazine. It talks about if you want. No, let's try this again. A detachable magazine means an ammunition feeding device that may be removed from the firearm without disassembly. Okay, so that's a no-no. But if you have a magazine that's stuck to the firearm permanently, think of some of the Kelly compliant ARs where the magazine is attached and you have to bust apart the action to get the magazine. That's what they're talking about. A fixed magazine is something that's permanently attached to the rifle or the firearm. That's what I mean. You're permanently affixing your AR mag, and you have to feed it by either breaking it apart to get your magazine out, or feed it through the ejection port. So it talks about gun show loopholes. You know how those exist, right? Gun show vendor means any person who exhibits, sells, offers for sale, transfers, or exchanges any firearm, including an assault weapon, at a gun show, regardless of whether the person arranges with the gun show promoter for a fixed location from which to exhibit, sell, or offer to sell. Did you hear what that just said? If you're a private person not making arrangements with the gun show and you want to sell your AR-15, no. Enjoy your $250,000 fine. We're licensed gun dealer. Rapid trigger activator. Any manual, power-driven, or electric device that is designed and functions to increase the rate of fire of a semi-automatic firearm when the device is attached to the firearm. I guess they have e-triggers for those. Any part of a semi-automatic firearm or a combination of parts that is designed and functions to increase the rate of fire of a semi-automatic firearm by enabling or needing the operator of the firearm to make a separate movement for each individual function of the trigger. Well, that's exactly what is defined under the ATF rule. It's one action of the trigger. Weird. Any other device, part, or combination of parts that is designed and functions to substantially increase the rate of fire of the semi-automatic firearm above the standard rate of fire for a semi-automatic firearm that is not equipped with that device, part, or combination of parts. So any kind of trigger mods that help you fire faster than the factory is a no-no. Okay. Anyway, it goes through all sorts of stuff. The penalties. This is rough. Okay. This is a big deal for these poor Coloradans. They're dealing with some pretty crazy stuff. And that's where Eva comes in. Eva Flannel. Look her up on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. Get involved. Like, I know you may not live in Colorado, but remember, this bill, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, in combination with bills like this, are coming to a state near you. It's going to happen. It's not a matter of if. It's going to happen. You got to trust me on this. Don't trust me, actually. Do some research on your own, and you're going to see how easy these bills will be to slip into your state legislature. It's coming. It's coming. We have to get in front of this. Okay. Let me see here. Let's jump back over here. I want to talk about this next thing that I was reading. Okay. This one, thanks to the Washington attorneys. I can't remember what the name of the website or the YouTube channel is. This is actually pretty intriguing. So this is the budget, the Office Managing Budget. This is where the money comes from, okay? Now, I spent some time reading through this document. Again, it's full of lots of fun things. But this is important. Actually, this is kind of a snake in the grass thing, okay? So this talks about the final rule of, this is a final rule from the ATF, okay? And if you look here on this right side of the document in the yellow, it talks about the comment period. These comments have to be made. There has to be a significant adverse comments on this by the 20th of May of this year. Okay. And this rule becomes effective in July if we don't do anything about this. Okay. Let's scroll down here. And again, I'm going to link this in the show notes and stuff so you guys can look on your own, because there's a lot of reading. There's a lot of stuff that I'm not going to be concentrating on in this text. Gun Control Act. One thing I liked about this, look, in blue, we have the Gun Control Act of 1968. The BSCA, we'll just call it for short, which took effect in the 25th of June of 22. Big deal. I'm telling you, that Bipartisan Safer Communities Act is designed to destroy your Second Amendment rights. All right, so these are some of the things that have changed because of that act. However, the BCA now provides that in the case of a person under 21 years, if the NICS notifies the FFL as cause, let me screw down here. Excuse me. So part of this talks about anyone under 21. needing a specific kind of NICS background check. Okay. So as of right now, under federal law, you can buy a rifle at 18 years old, or a long gun, I should say. So including an AR-15, a long gun, a rifle, a shotgun. You can buy that currently under state law in most state, or federal law under most states anyways. They have some jurisdictional changes. 18-year-olds can buy long guns. Federal law says it's cool. Now, what the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act is, they want to change that to 21. I don't know why they want to change that to 21. I'm assuming that they look at the age of some of these miscreants going around causing violence with firearms. A lot of them are under the age of 21. In fact, if we looked at the majority of shootings in the United States, they're happening probably between the ages of 15 and 19. So it's pretty crazy. That's the average gang member age, by the way. And unfortunately, that's getting younger. Like, we're seeing kids at 12 years old or so getting involved in gangs. However, the BSCA now provides that in the case of a person under 21 years old, if NICS notifies the FFL that cause exists to further investigate the possible disqualifying juvenile records, the FFL may not transfer the firearm until 10 business days have elapsed. Okay, now I want you to look at this. Okay, disqualifying juvenile records. Now, this, maybe some of you understood this when this first came out, as far as the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. It hits on your juvie record. Now, as I understand it, I'm not an attorney. I'm not a law professional by any means. As I understand it, if you have a juvenile record, once you become an adult, that doesn't really take place. That doesn't have effect in your life unless it's like extremely violent and you're probably locked up anyways. But you could have done something. I don't know about you. A lot of us were stupid when we were kids. But if there's something in your juvenile record that pops, there's a big deal now. Now, anybody under the age of 21 is going to have that pop, that potential pop on their background checks. Okay? Now, here's something else we need to understand that came across with the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act here in blue, is the NICS Denial Notification Act, the NDNA. Okay? This provides such a report. So what it is, it's a little bit deeper background check for anyone under 21. Okay. Well, not this one. That's a little later on. So the NICS must provide such a report within 24 hours after NICS denies a firearm transfer and include the federal, state, local, or tribal prohibition, the date and the time of the notice, and the location where the licensee attempted, where the attempted firearm transfer was sought, and the person's identity. Okay, so this gets in a little bit deeper than what it used to be. I know you got to put your address, right? All that stuff gets put on the NICS form, but apparently this goes a little bit deeper. Okay, and it does. Actually, it calls for now the city, if the potential buyer, excuse me, it has to put the city now, if he resides in the city, which I'm not sure why that matters. The summary is directed. The final rule makes confirming updates to the ATF's regulations to incorporate many of the firearms-related statutory changes made by the BSCA and the NDNA to ensure that the regulations are consistent with the statutes and can be relied upon by the public. The department has also published a separate proposed ATF rulemaking definition of engaged in business. We talked about that a little bit. Or as a dealer in firearms. That proposed implementing of the BSCA provides provisions related to what it means to be engaged in business as a wholesale or retail firearm dealer. Blah, blah, blah. The department published the final rule definition of engaged in business as a dealer in firearms in the Federal Register in April 19, so just last month. If 24, by the way, if you're listening to this at some later time. In addition, the department anticipates using 3 rules to implement the BSCA and the NDA provisions related to the FBI's operations. Craziness, right? U.S. Code 18 USC provides that it is unlawful for any person to sell or otherwise dispose of a firearm or ammunition to another person if the transferor knows that the reasonable cause or has reasonable cause to believe that the prospective transferee is disqualified as specified in that subsection. Now it's up to you. If you want to sell something, you have to do your due diligence and hope that the guy that you're selling the gun to isn't going to do something nefarious. Let's see. Now it's amended. Now the code now specifies that events occurring when the person was a juvenile are disqualifying, except that the prohibition against the sale or disposition of a firearm and ammunition to persons who have been educated as mental defective, blah, 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 or committed to any mental institution applies only to the person who adjudicated or committed at 16 or older. Okay, so now you have to ask this person if you're selling a gun or apparently ammunition. Okay, pay attention because it's a little bit more than what they said. You have to now ask them about their juvenile history. And if it's disqualifying, okay? All right, this is probably super boring to you guys, but I need you guys to read this. I need you guys to understand this. You can see as I read through this, I highlighted a ton of stuff. Oh, look at this. Fines, okay? Let's see, which one is this under? This is talking about transferring a gun over the border, outside the state or outside of the country, or even bringing guns in from outside of the country. There's new penalties affixed to that. So, not more than 15 years or fines. It doesn't say what these fines are if you're found engaged in business of smuggling firearms. Okay, let's jump down here. It talks about the boyfriend loophole, right? Just apparently that was a big deal. We talk about the gun show loophole. We talk about whatever other loopholes existed. Well, now they finally plugged the old boyfriend loophole. That sounds actually quite disgusting. Probably shouldn't have phrased it that way. Anyway, the boyfriend loophole was where if you're in a domestic relationship with somebody, and let's just say this man was a violent felon, and he had a relationship with his girlfriend that was not a prohibited person. He convinces her to purchase a firearm for him because it's not illegal to buy a firearm for your family member, but if it's for, as long as they are not a prohibited person, same type of thing, kind of, for your boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. If they're prohibited, you cannot buy them again. Straw purchase. It's still a straw purchase. These laws already existed. But they had to define it even more because apparently it's this epidemic. And it's a lie, right? We know that straw purchases have been illegal for a very long time, but they have to create these new things here, this boyfriend loophole, to create fear. So you will be willing to give up some of your rights, okay? So this supposedly fixes that under the straw purchasing stuff. Let's see. The BSCA creates 2 new criminal offenses for straw purchasing of firearms and for trafficking of firearms, as mentioned in Section 2B of this preamble, blah, blah, blah. The straw purchasing offense makes it illegal for any person to knowingly purchase or conspire to purchase a firearm on behalf of another person, knowing or having reasonable cause to believe the person for whom they are making the purchase is a prohibited, and then it goes through this criteria, making the purchase prohibited under 18 U.S.C., which is, you can look at the form on the FFL, the disqualifiers, that's what that is, intends to use, carry, possess, sell, or dispose of a firearm in the furtherance of a felony, a federal crime of terrorism, or drug trafficking crime. And that's also if you look at the U.S. code, that's in there as well. Intends to sell or dispose of the firearm in Section 922, a person or persons intending to use, carry, possess, sell, or dispose of a firearm to furtherance of any felony, a federal crime of terrorism, or drug trafficking crime. Anything that would disqualify you as a buyer, that's what this is talking about. Those already existed, but they have to define them a little bit deeper. Let's see. Here, the firearms trafficking sorry, I gotta slow down. The firearms trafficking offense makes it illegal for any person to 1, ship, transport, cause to be transport, transfer, or otherwise dispose of a firearm, knowing or having reasonable cause to believe that the use, carrying, or possession of a firearm by the recipient would constitute a felony as defined in 18 USC. Okay. Again, it still goes through the straw purchases. If you buy a gun for somebody that you know is prohibited, that's illegal. Those laws already existed, but now they're making them a little bit more fortified. Like it or not, that might be okay. But understand that there's a lot of non-violent criminals who have paid their debt to society that are no longer criminals in my perspective. They have paid their debt to society, even though they still have, unfortunately, they've left that lifestyle of crime behind for non-violent offenses, but they still have that felony on their record. Well, guess what? You might think they're not a felon, but the state still does, or the feds still do, and it keeps them from owning a gun, and it puts you in a very big pickle if you buy a gun for them, which it's always been that way, by the way. Well, since, 94, I think, is when some of the stuff changed. All right. Oh, here's a fun one. Background checks on a transaction for which the prospective firearms transferee is under 21 years of age. With respect to these enhanced background checks, okay, so it talked about enhanced background checks earlier that we didn't talk about. So instead of like a 3-day waiting period, if you sit it out, they want to go through a week. Actually, it's 10 days. In fact, I might even talk about this later on. 10 days, business days, for anyone under 21. A right delayed is a right denied. And NICS background checks on a transaction for which the prospective firearm transferee is under 21 years of age. With respect to these enhanced background checks, under 21 transactions, Congress imposed 2 overreaching requirements. I like the word overreaching. Upon NICS via the BSCA. First, in addition to the traditional NICS check of the relevant FBI system, NICS is required to conduct an additional outreach to 3 specific types of state and local entities to determine whether the prospective transferee is has a possibly disqualifying juvenile record. Did you hear what I just said again? Okay, you might have done some stupid shit as a kid, and you got in some trouble, but you paid that debt to society, and it used to be that didn't matter as an adult, but apparently it does. Second, beyond the possibility of a 3 business day investigatory period already allowed for the NICS transaction as noted above, the BSCA provides for an additional investigatory period if needed as part of an under 21 transaction, up to a total of 10 business days. The traditional 3 business days described above, plus an additional 7 business days for further investigation. So now that's business days. That's 2 weeks. Okay. So now, if you're not a bad kid, not a bad person at 21, and you made some stupid mistakes as a kid that you've paid your debts to society for, or maybe that the government thinks, well, this is kind of dangerous behavior, your background check for that purchase of a firearm, which you're legally at legal age to purchase, by the way, can take up to 2 weeks, 10 business days. A right denied, right? We just talked about a right delayed is a right denied. NICS is required to notify the FFL no later than the end of the 3rd business day if an additional investigatory period is needed. Okay. So normally it could take up to 3 business days plus 1 day for a background check to come back. It has happened. It's pretty common for folks, especially if they have a common name or something. Somehow something pops up to where they have to dig a little bit deeper, and that's a delay. But now the NICS can say, hey, he's under 21. We're a little worried. There's some stuff there that makes us wonder. So we're going to just go ahead and take another week. So, excuse me. It's not even a week. 7 business days. Business days. It's crazy. All right, what do we got over here? So here's what we're talking about as far as cities. The department is amending blah, blah, blah to require additional information on the transferee's residence address and whether they reside in city limits or not, as necessary to identify the record locations. that must be searched pursuant of the BSCA and the NDNA, and as necessary for NICS to notify the local law enforcement authority where the transferee resides when the transfer is denied, pursuant to the NDNA. So now we have to state whether we live in city limits or not. It shouldn't matter if the sheriff's office is still going to get notified. That they should be communicating that. Anyway, there's just a bunch of other stuff on here. We're not going to go through this. It's honestly not that exciting. It is a little bit frustrating. Now, again, look up here in the yellow, okay? If you have a disagreement with this final rule and the changes that are going to be being made, this all interferes with your Second Amendment rights, by the way. And this coincides with what we just talked about in Colorado, because what happens in one state, obviously this is a federal level, these things trickle down to every aspect of your freedom. And it's not going to stop at the Second Amendment, by the way. That's not how they roll, okay? It's super, super frustrating. Oh my gosh, you guys didn't even see that. Oh, I forgot to do this. All right, well, in this case, let's just look at this real quick, okay? You have to provide this feedback by the 20th of May. Gosh, what a retard. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. What a mentally challenged person. Anyway, this is what we just read. Dang it. I hate when I do that. So you just got to see me blankingly staring at a screen for no good reason. Anyway, well, now you get to see my shining face again. Boy. Sorry about that. All this tech, I can't seem to figure out. So I guess it's good audio. Now we just made fun of all those people in audio land, and they actually got the good content. You got me staring like a spastic person at a TV screen. Like this. Sorry, guys. Sorry. If you guys want to see it, you can look up the document yourself. It's just going to have to. All right. Now it takes us to Bruen. Okay. The reason why I wanted to bring up Bruen is because there is a remedy for all these ridiculous bills taking place. There's a remedy. And that's you. And that's you and your community. One of the blessings that we got from, Caetano, the case with Caetano, was it Caetano v. Massachusetts, and then Heller, and then Bruen, is they've created this framework on, which is a test to how to fight these bills. Bruen reiterated what happened in Heller: text, history, and tradition. Now we have to understand these things. That's why I want you to read these bills. That's why I want you to read the decision on Bruen. I'm not going to sit here and read it to you. No, I am not. But it's important that you understand where these perspectives come from. We talked about it earlier. It helps you develop how to have a conversation in these things. Like, I'm not... When I tell you these things are long and drawn out, I'm not kidding. I mean, this... Look at this. I mean, there's a ton. There's a ton here. Maybe I'll read a couple things for you. I know. But in this case, I'm not going to put it on the screen. So I look longingly into the eyes of the white light. But let me read you this. And this is part of the syllabus from this decision. And then we'll have a conversation about this. The test that the court set forth in Heller and applies today requires courts to assess whether modern firearms regulations are consistent with the Second Amendment's text and history under the text and history understanding. Of course, the regulatory challenges posed by firearms today are not always the same as those that preoccupied the founders in 1791 or the Reconstruction generation of 1868. But the Constitution can and must apply to circumstances beyond those the founder specifically anticipated, even though its meaning is fixed according to the understanding of those who ratified it. Indeed, the court recognizes in Heller at least one way in which the Second Amendment's historically fixed meaning applies to new circumstances. It refers to the arms does not apply only to those arms in existence in the 18th century. Okay? So, the Bruen case goes through a lot of stuff. It's probably going to get loud. Okay? I don't know if you guys can hear that. Every once in a while, the wire on my mic gets weird and it's painful in my ears. But Thomas goes through so much stuff in that decision. He dives into some rich historical truths that correlate and that refocus the efforts of the Second Amendment, in this case, but the Constitution abroad, and how it works in today's society. Another thing you're going to hear, I'm not going to dig in it because it'll take me a minute to find it in here, but it talks about how the Second Amendment, and everybody freaks out about this, but I don't, the way I read it anyways, is when he says that, yeah, every amendment has its point where it, or it was, the Second Amendment is not absolute, I think is what you hear from the left, right? And they get that from the Bruen decision, but they don't read the entire thing. Okay? Once you read the entire document, you realize, okay, yeah, it's not unlimited, but what are the limitations to the Second Amendment? And that comes to the people who are prohibited from carrying. It has nothing to do with modern arms. It has to do with the restrictions of the people carrying it. Kind of what the Colorado thing, or the last thing that we read through wasn't Colorado, but people doing the potential of doing nefarious things. That's the limitation on the Second Amendment, is those people don't have the same guaranteed right that good quality citizens have. That's where it's not absolute. Whereas anybody can say, or used to be able to say, whatever they wanted under the First Amendment, or they can worship any way they want under the First Amendment. But they're going to tell you that the Second Amendment isn't absolute, so it doesn't encompass modern arms, which we just read under Thomas's own quote, that the Constitution does meet the definition of arms then and encompasses what we use now. Now, the Caetano case, which I'm pretty sure we talked about in common use, which that test is applied and reiterated and clarified in Bruen as well, that under common use, we can't ban certain things because they're in common use. Now, the Colorado thing we read earlier says that that assault weapons are used in crime. Well, an assault is a crime. The tool used is indifferent. Okay? So they're broadening the term. They're painting with a different brush than what they're playing with different rules than what is defined under Bruen, to kind of circumvent the test. If they're going to say, well, that it's an assault, those people are not, that they're exempt from their Second Amendment rights. It's an assault. Okay, but at what point do the citizens' rights get trampled on because you want to clarify, or not clarify, but broaden the definition of assault and throw everything under the assault weapons moniker? Bruen has so much information. You need to be reading these things. Again, there's so much. Like I've highlighted so much in here. I mean, see if you can see. Like I've got highlights on every page. Okay, except for that page. I've got highlights. Look at this. You guys want me to read this? No, you don't want me to read this. You guys are sick of hearing me read. I still feel like an idiot. Like not pulling up that screen so you can't read it yourself. I guess I could do this in post, right? I could edit it. Yeah, you guys really need to be reading it, because it goes from the founding era, it goes to the Reconstruction and post antebellum eras. I mean, let me find this. You guys got to hear this. I know I can find it quick. Um, let's see. Never mind. Never mind. It's gonna take too long for me to find. I had an idea of where it was at. Um, but it's just gonna take too long for me to find. Sorry, I should have been more prepared. Uh, anyways, I guess what I'm getting at with all this stuff that I'm bringing forth is first and foremost, the things that we look at other states dealing with right now, anti-gun states. We think, ha, look at that, you guys suck at electing people. That's probably what a lot of us think. But there's more to that. There's stuff that we're not looking at. What's really happening is, what I should say, what we really should be thinking is, what are we doing in our pro-gun states to keep that from happening? Because it's just one election away. It always is, one election away. I know that sounds like dire straits, doom and gloom, whatever you want to talk about. But elections have consequences, and they're seeing that in Colorado. Our friends in California have been dealing with that for years. Washington, Oregon, Illinois, Louisiana, DC, Maryland. Like, we're seeing this in so many other states that have allowed their legislation to rule the roost. I brought this up before, and I'm going to keep bringing this up. The preamble says what? We, the people, are in charge. And until we educate ourselves, again, looking at these decisions that have been made, looking at past the past of how we retained our freedom, that's how we figure this out in the future. But complaining in our comfy chairs when somebody says something during an election year, that's not going to fix the problem. We have to be active at it. We have to be doing something. And some of that, I mean, that may be running for office. We need to be doing something. We need to be proactive. We need to get ahead of these things. How many of you guys are involved in your state gun rights groups? How many of you guys are involved in local politics? Not just like casting a vote, but I mean involved in politics. Look, I'm talking to myself here too. Precinct committee chairman. Like, have you guys, do you know who that is? Is that seat vacant? Are you going to run for that seat? These are where the differences are made. Because once we figure out our local elections, then we can work on our state elections. Then we can work on national stuff. Bitching about the president, as easy as it may be, isn't solving anything. Where's the traction being made? Our state legislatures, who are our legislators, who are in Washington, being part of the voice. That's where our biggest power is. That's why we have representatives. But those really boil down to the common denominator of our local elections, because that's where that's where these people come from. And if we're not cultivating good representation, we can't complain, because it's kind of our fault. The only way to make a difference in our children's future is getting involved. Okay? I'm really tired, so I hope any of this stuff makes sense. Obviously, I'm tired because I screwed up an entire segment for you guys. I apologize. I probably should re-record this, but I'm over an hour into it, and I'm not going to. But I will share all that stuff in show notes. I want you guys to really understand the importance of who you are and why you're here today. Now, why you're listening to me. I'm just a nobody. Take what I say for a grain of salt. That's fine. But don't take your freedom for a grain of salt. Don't take the future of your children or your grandchildren or your nieces or nephews or whatever. Don't neglect that, because it's so easy to be lost. and that comes with apathy, and we can't be apathetic anymore. What's happening in Colorado will happen in your state if you do not get involved. It will. If you're not talking to your congressman, if you're not talking to your city council, if you're not talking to your school board, they're going to just make decisions that they think is right for the community, not for what the community wants them to do. It's our fault. We haven't done our jobs. I was talking to somebody just before I started recording the show tonight. And they referenced another friend of ours, a mutual friend, that said that the citizens are the fourth branch of the government. And I said, no, we're the first branch of the government. The others are subsequent. We have a responsibility. We have an active responsibility in our freedom. And if we're apathetic about it, we're going to lose it. We've been blessed a lot over the last few years, and all those blessings have turned us into spoiled, petulant children, and we need to we need to change our ways, because good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. Okay, we're in that bottom of the loop there, and we need to figure it out, because hard times are coming, and we have to be proactive. We can make those hard times a little less hard if we get involved right now. Okay, that's where we're finished with this. Again, I apologize for not showing you the documents we were talking about. Such a rookie move. But listen to me. Tomorrow's a new day. We're starting a new week. I recorded this on the 5th of May. Cinco de Mayo. Oh my goodness, I didn't even realize. Sunday night. It's 11 o'clock at night. I'm super tired. But I do this because I love you. I do this because I feel like I have a voice to share, and I hope what I've shared to you and any little bit of something clicked. I want you guys to get involved. Because we need you. We need you. Patches. I have ordered patches. Yes, it's actually happened. I was a little concerned that I was being scammed, but he sent me a video yesterday. Then the molds are made, so I'm kind of stoked about that. He says it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to get them after they make the molds and everything. So we'll see. If we're lucky, if we're super lucky, maybe we'll get them this week. That would be awesome. Do you know what? I want to do this too. I haven't really done this. Maybe I did. I just don't remember. I'm going to give a shout out to my homies at Whiskey and Windage podcast. I'm going to link their stuff in the notes below too. They had me on their show. I'm supposed to get them on our show, on my show. I've just had too many things going through my mind. But I need to repent and be better, right? So Whiskey and Windage, great content. Honestly, those guys are getting big, and they just gave away a bunch of stuff today in their little Cinco de Mayo episode. So just if you want to just win stuff, you probably should get involved. I actually won a t-shirt tonight, and somebody, you're like, oh yeah, on t-shirt, somebody won a Q honey badger. So what I'm telling you is they're awesome to follow, because you could be getting some pretty sweet swag from these guys. Anyway, Whiskey and Windage podcast, check them out. I was on episode 17, but they have lots of other episodes. Good content, a little spicy at sometimes. They cuss a little bit more than I do, but if that doesn't bother you, whatever, it doesn't bother me. I try to keep my stuff a little more friendly to folks. But that's up to you. I don't care. You can listen to whatever you want. I'm not telling you not to listen to it because they swear, whatever. So podcast, Whiskey and Windage podcast, check them out. You might like them. I think they're cool. They're cool dudes. Patches, like I just talked about. Make sure, if you want to follow me on any of our socials, I spending way too much time on Twitter, X, formerly known as Twitter, whatever it's called, way too much time. So you probably can find me there at any time of the day. Range Minded is the handle on X, but if you want to look for, Instagram or Facebook, Range Minded Podcast, as well as Twitter. TikTok. Gosh, tired. TikTok has been pissing me off a lot, actually. I I ran a show promo on TikTok, and it got 0 views. 0. Like nothing. Which is, I always get 1 view or 2 views. And then I posted a follow-up video about that, about how nobody's watching it, which I know some of these people watched the video. She'll still show 0. So I'm getting shadow banned on the TikTok. They flagged a video of me shooting a 50, which I can't remember if we talked about. Safe, completely safe at a controlled range. I am a firearms instructor. I had all the proper safety equipment. Anyway, immediately flagged. I got a strike on my account just because I posted a video of me shooting a 50. Interesting. Quite interesting. But weirdly enough, YouTube and Facebook haven't given me any strikes until now that I said that. I probably will get something now. Who knows? But we got to keep up as much as we can. If you want to follow on Rumble, not a lot of people do follow on Rumble. Everybody says, go to Rumble. But I've got 5 subscribers maybe on Rumble and very little viewed content. But you're welcome to follow me there because I try to publish there as well. Don't forget SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play. We're on all sorts of platforms, so you can find me anywhere. Anyways, I'm rambling for no reason, and I guess that's just the way it is. Love you guys. I want you guys to be safe. I want you to know that freedom isn't free. Make sure you find a veteran around you and thank them for their service because they've given up more than a lot of us understand. Also, take somebody shooting. My heck, we need more stewards of the Second Amendment, and that's where you guys step in. I appreciate you guys. Stay safe. Take somebody shooting. Don't do dumb things.